Hello, every pony. You know who I am, and welcome to My Little Pony What Works. Can't believe I have to talk about this terrible series again. But as many of you pointed out, all 160 of you, I made a couple of mistakes in my recent review of the Abridged series. So I decided to live up to my name as a voice of reason and prove I'm not a dickhead, unprofessional, a self-defeating argument, or suffering from Asperger's. Oh yeah, really feeling the love and tolerance here. I will go over 6 of my mistakes that everyone has pestered me about for the past month and try to justify them. This is my top 6 mistakes for my Friendship is Witchcraft review. Number 6. The background Lula's Pet Shop characters. I think I got my point across with this one, but when I wrote the line I ended up contradicting myself. I said this about the background character references. But in an Abridged series, it doesn't work. The audience should be focused on the story and humor on screen, not the things that happen in the background. I didn't even notice the references until I looked in the comment section. Then again, I was ready to quit after 2 minutes of watching this crap with the incest storyline. By adding those extras in, you distract the audience from the story. What I probably should have done here is split the argument in 2. The meta-humor reference I feel is a justified argument. The fact that this type of meta-humor doesn't really work in an Abridged series as it distracts the audience from the actual story. The second argument should have stated, even if the meta-humor worked, the references were so small that a majority of people still noticed they existed. So everyone was more focused on the tiny insignificant pictures in the background than on the incest storyline. I admit the meta reference was alright, but there wasn't any joke to go along with the reference. So I really can't give props to the creative team here. They at least tried. I'll give them that much. Number 5. Raincloud was a reference to Derpy's censorship. Okay, this one I actually knew about but didn't feel like addressing. That was my mistake. I wasn't really angry at the reference to the censorship of Derpy, but rather the approach to the joke, or as it were, an anti-joke. As I stated in my disclaimer, the review was going to be very subjective, which meant the problems that I found fault with were very personal. In my view, I hate the use of anti-humor in parody series. Considering how well anti-humor is used in TV shows like Children's Hospital, Eagle Heart, or Tim and Eric Awesome Show Great Job, you'll see my reservation on the use of it is not too kind. Not that I don't hate dry humor, in fact I use it a couple of times in my crossover with A&Y. I'm also not a stranger to self-referential humor, as with the STEM joke. However, the problem with the jokes in Friendship is Witchcraft is that they are too dry. So dry, in fact, they could be sued by Church and Dwight for trademark infringement. I'll give you a couple seconds to think about that one. There it is, you got it. And you thought I didn't get dry humor. See, I even threw in a pun. Number 4, the characters don't have to be morally sound to be likable. Oh, sweet Celestia, this argument is stupid on 2 levels. While I agree that a character doesn't have to be morally sound in order to be likable, there needs to be some other reason why we should like said characters. A good example of that is my second favorite anime of all time, Baccano. The main thing that makes the series enjoyable is the colorful cast of characters. Despite them being, well, let's say morally corrupt people, there are other qualities that make them thoroughly enjoyable to watch. Isaac Dean and Miria Harvin are a crime duo that beat up some bank escorts while dressed up as Ty Cobb and Babe Ruth, but the comedy between the two makes them a riot to laugh with. Vera Puccineso is a member of the Matilla crime family, but he's so smooth and cool that even men swoon over him. And then there's Lad Russo. What can I say about Lad? He's the personification of the Joker from Batman the Animated Series, if the Joker existed in the 1930s. He's just that awesome. Just watch it to see what I'm talking about. In Friendship is Witchcraft, I can't think of one thing that is likable about the main 6. I keep expecting Jason Voorhees to pop out of a bush and start carving up horse meat with his machete. What I'm saying is, it shouldn't be a chore to sit through a series with such unlikable characters. I hear you say, but they lampshade the fact their characters are unlikable. That makes it justified! Wrong! The Nostalgia Critic in his review of The Cat in the Hat also tackled the same issue. Just because you admit something is painful and stupid doesn't make it any less painful and stupid. Lampshading, when used poorly, is a cop-out. Here's an example of how to lampshade correctly.
Alright, listen here, you skirted little green fairy.
It's funny because it isn't me.
I want to find this treasure just as much as anybody else, so why don't you keep to your funny little leprechaun character, and I'll keep to mine. Got it?
Well, excuse me, princess. Yeah, that did sound douchey. Promise me you'll never let me do that again.
Promise!
Okay.
And the reason why it works? He said it once and never did it again. Hell, in my season 4 wish list, I lampshaded twice and never did the axe again. Because I learned from my mistakes. When Friendship is Witchcraft lampshades and continues to do the same mistakes with their characters over and over again, it's painful to sit through. In conclusion, awful one-dimensional characters are awful one-dimensional characters no matter how much you try to lampshade them. Number 3. The eye candy and bonbon watering flowers jokes were references to all running gags. This I definitely should have worded better. At the beginning of my review, I said that the use of repetition was not comedy. I'm an idiot. I realize that repetition is a form of comedy, the running gag. I also have seen running gags done well in Abridged series, such as the Krillin getting own counter in Dragon Ball Z Abridged. What I should have said was the running gags, at least with the eye candy one, had no context to the joke. I was confused as to why Fluttershy sliding at least 4 feet was considered eye candy. But the big thing everyone and their mothers were telling me was that it was a reference to overused running gags in cartoons. My response? 1, what was the running gag in Swarm of the Century that the team was parodying? And 2, I thought this was a parody of My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, not a parody of cartoons in general. Still, I should have seen the running gag when the joke was repeated more than once. Still doesn't make it clever though. Number 2. The element switching was intentional. Yes! I'm aware of the element switching being intentional! You can all stop pestering me about the subject! I confused it for lazy post-production, and I'm sorry! However, if I can turn this argument into my favor, I will say this. I'm familiar with a certain line from Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire where Dumbledore tells Harry, "Soon we must all face a choice between what is right and what is easy." The same thing applies to writing humor. Now, I'm not saying there's a right way to comedy. After all, humor is subjective. But I will say there is an easy path and a creative path. Right. Instead of taking a more creative route with the element switching, like paying homage to the number switching gag in Monty Python and the Holy Grail, they took the easy route and poorly redubbed the lines. And if you recall from my short bridal gossip review, if there's one thing I can't stand in writing, whether it's my own, the show's, or the Abridged series, it's laziness. The element switching joke was lazily executed. And for an Abridged series with high production values to pull off, that is just insulting. Laziness at its finest for an Abridged series, folks. And at number 1, Friendship is Witchcraft is not an Abridged series. I have seen this going up and down the comments saying Friendship is Witchcraft is not an Abridged series, or the creators never intended it to be an Abridged series. This is probably because I didn't give a proper definition of an Abridged series, which is partially my fault. My response to Friendship is Witchcraft not being an Abridged series, however? Bull crap! The definition of an Abridged series, according to Know Your Meme, and I quote, "Abridged series is a subgenre of video parody that involves narrating the condensed version of popular media that often poke fun at faulty or unconventional premise and plot lines found in said media. Abridged parodies are especially popular with cartoons and anime series due to their simplistic and easy-to-dub nature." And what does Friendship is Witchcraft do? Narrate a condensed version of popular media, a cartoon, because of its easy-to-dub nature, to create parody. It's right there in the title of their latest video. And if you continue to say that it wasn't intended to be one, or I'm mistaken to think it's an Abridged series, I believe the phrase I'm looking for is, your argument is invalid. I'm the voice of reason, and I'll see you next time.